controller is whoever playing games. When I died, only voices on my grave. No superhero gonna come and save the day. Alter my mind to help illusion all the pain. The way controller is whoever playing games.
I'm Konrad Kula from Rybnik, Poland, and I'll be driving the Ferrari 296 GT3 here at Crown Racing Series.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to Crown Racing Series. My name is Shannon Yuan, and I'm joined with Jamie.
Hey guys, I'm Jamie Chambers, and welcome to CRS for round one of the championship.
Yes. This time we are actually focused on driving in the Silverstone race course, and Silverstone has hosted the very first Formula One World Championships Grand Prix in 1950. Back in 1950, driving here connects drivers, professional or amateur, to the origins of modern race car racing. So, what do you know about Silverstone?
Well, I mean, Silverstone is the home of motorsport, so I'm incredibly excited of the synergy that we've got between the launch of CRS and the launch of motorsport as a whole. From 1948 all the way to the present day, Silverstone has been a staple of motorsport. You name it, Silverstone has hosted it, and now it is hosting the Crown Racing Series. So we are incredibly excited to be here to see the first round of this season. Now remember guys, this league puts the spotlight on the drivers, not the cars. This is all about the person behind the steering wheel and the stories that go with them. We have got elite drivers going up against each other, with some of them pitching in the top 100 drivers globally in iRacing, which is huge. Now on top of that, they will all have a fixed setup going into this race, which means the only thing they can change is their brake bias. Now with no setup freedom, that does mean that every advantage comes from skill, discipline, and of course their own racecraft. So I'm incredibly excited to see what happens going into this. What about you, Shannon?
Yes, I am completely over the moon by this, and with an entirely new grid and no previous CRS form book, the opening round is wide open. 18 drivers from across the world will start the season, and the field is close enough that small errors can decide entire weekends.
Yep, and qualifying uses a 20-minute open session where you are looking to post your banker laps as soon as possible. There's a lovely flash in the studio there, gotta love that. It's just a car going past. Now, the field is set for a 50-minute race with a rolling start. I'm incredibly excited to see that as well. And now every driver must complete at least one fuel stop as well. So that's going to be super important. As you all know, guys, races can be won and lost from their pit stop as well. So we are looking at the qualifying going on at the moment. Balaz has actually posted a very good 157.146. Then we've also got David Bosger at 157.188. And just behind him, Ryan Woodrow from America has come in with a 157.564. So those are your top three at the moment. I'm incredibly excited. I know we're going to talk about the favourites when we come back after talking to the commissioner. But in the meantime, Shannon, who do you think are some of your favourites going into this season?
Ooh, I think one of my favorites must be Cody Boss. As his name suggests, he is the boss himself. I think his story is so inspiring, coming from a background of, you know, like very humble beginnings. He grew up never believing that racing was actually part of something that he would do himself. He was just thinking that, oh, this is something that I would observe and spectate and just see for myself. But he started a cleaning business when he was younger, when he was still in university. And he then bought his first sim rig at the end of 2019. At first, it was just a hobby. Then it became a full-fledged, you know, like masterpiece of his lifetime, I think. I mean, he's not dead yet, so I don't know why I said that. But
I mean, we also from the intro we saw Konrad Kula as well. Now, Konrad for me is someone who looks very interesting going into the season. We had a fantastic story about him and his upbringing in Poland. I mean, he's had competitive titles already in gaming, which is huge. I think some defining moments for him as well that have shaped him is definitely like his amount of time in iRacing already, which is huge. I think he's very disciplined. He's definitely very switched on. For me, I think he is definitely worth looking at. I mean, he's posted a 158.256, so he's probably going to be starting around 12th place, which is going to be a lot of hard work for him going into this race.
yeah, I think it's a really interesting story that he has as well, because since his early teens, he's played, you know, like esport titles. And I guess it combines two of the things that he loves, which is cars and competitive gaming. So he realized that he was very competitive at the very start. And one opportunity led to another until he found out that he was actually driving for well-known organizations like Brabham Esports and Team Rocket Jensen Button. And I think he's just a really cool person as well, because his rationale is to stay clean and kind on the track, which you don't really see a lot of drivers saying this, like to stay clean and kind on the track.
Yeah.
Because he's not someone that easily gets rattled or dragged into mind games, and he always aims to race respectfully even when the pressure is high. I think this kind of integrity that he holds close to heart is something that I really admire him
I think he's had some big drawbacks, he's had some setbacks, which he's definitely come through really well. I think the fact that he's quite easygoing, he's quite supportive, and he does race fair is going to definitely play into his favour. Certainly if he's starting in the middle of the pack. It's something that's very hard to do at Silverstone, is to come from the middle of the pack to the front, but let's see what Konrad can do today. We've got 15 seconds now, and we're going to go to our commissioner for a brief overview of CRS, so looking forward to hearing from him.
Yes.
It should be an interesting brief from Simon. I'm very excited. So yeah. We are going to pass over now to Simon.
Welcome to CRS. My name is Simon, and I'll be your lead commissioner for the series, and you join us at the start of what promises to be a very exciting journey. We're looking to do things a little bit differently. Racing is everything to us, but it is your stories that we're gearing up to tell over the next 9 months. We will be focusing on each of you as individuals and your journey with us throughout the season. With this in mind, a foundation of the league is our ability to tell the story of the season through the lens of all of you, a committed set of drivers who are all in with us, every corner, every lap, every race. You are not interchangeable. You are not faceless numbers in a race. You are the inaugural drivers for CRS, and we are proud to have you with us on this journey. CRS is built on a strong sporting foundation, and creating a captivating entertainment product is the priority. However, in this crucible, the real heroes are not the cars, they are not the liveries, but they are you, our drivers. But racing is nothing without the fans, and our commitment to them is as strong as our commitment to you. It is their trust we will need to earn in Season 1, and we are investing the time and energy needed to bring the series to life for them. We want them on this journey with us, to build connections with each one of you, bask in your successes, feel every setback, and ultimately cheer you on to glory. We need you to bring the energy, the passion and the commitment to motorsport that has led us to you. Help us bring your story to life for our audience. Be open, be honest, bring all of yourself to every lap of every race and every engagement with CRS.
And awesome, thank you for that, Simon. And hopefully, guys, that gives you an overview from our commissioner, and again, should build to the excitement and the anticipation going into the start of this season. So I said before at that brief interval about the favourites going into this first race. So Shannon, who do you want to talk about first?
I'm a big fan of Luciano Woodward. He looked consistently and fast in testing, arrives as an early benchmark for raw pace. And I think what's really interesting about him is that he's always had a passion for cars since he was very young, and his inspiration from his father and his influence from his father is something that I really admire as well. His dad owned his own garage and also was a mechanic for a seat cup team. At the age of 10, Luciano Woodvik started karting, but due to a lack of funds, he couldn't pursue it anymore. And I think what is a very heartfelt story here is that his dad got sick in 2018, and because of this, he became more involved with him in the garage to help out. And then in 2020, during COVID, he made the decision to stop school and work full-time in esports racing. And sadly, after his passing in 2021, he made the decision to either stop or maybe go back to school or keep racing and try to achieve their shared goal, but he chose to keep racing.
Yeah, I think that's huge. From my perspective, that is such a huge adversity to come over, and he is driven by that. And I think that in itself is going to really sort of, if you excuse the pun, it's going to fuel him going into this race. Is going to be something that really drives him forward. I mean, being around sport from such a young age is huge. So he's definitely got the experience, he's definitely got the motivation, he's definitely got the drive, and I'm incredibly excited to see what he can do. He had a tough first year in esport, and I think that has definitely molded him, because he's had a few crashes, he's had a few conflicts, but you can make or break a driver based on those. Some crashes and some conflicts can leave you on the back foot and very much unable to perform, or you find yourself lifting off the pedal somewhat. And I'm always reminded by those quotes that if you no longer go for the gap, you might as well stop racing. And that is huge for us, especially at the start of this season. I think with his goal being to win races and fight for championships, he definitely looks one of the strongest. I know he performed incredibly well in the pre-season race as well.
Yes.
I mean, I think he was 1.5 seconds clear by the end of the race. So that, I mean, we'll look at the qualifying times just now. What is interesting about it is we've got Balazs Erdalay, who is going to be on pole. Luciano actually only posted a 5th fastest time in the Ferrari with a 1:57.415. So that does mean that he was 300ths off the pace, which not 3/10, sorry, not 300ths, I can't count. 3/10 off the pace. So although only 3/10 off the pace, that does mean that he has got some work to do, especially with Danny Neo, Ryan Woodrow, and also David Bosger ahead of him. And I know another one of your favourites is in that list as well. So
Of course, of course. Let's talk about. Should we talk about Gregory? Gregory
definitely.
Halvorsen. He is one of my favorites just because, you know, he is a 20-year-old motorsports veteran from Toronto. And I think what's really interesting about him is that he does what it takes to become the best driver. He is a very convicted driver, and he is committed to the game. He's fair and respectful until you give him a reason not to be, as quote unquote from him. But the hardest setback for him was actually missing out in the 2024 IMSA Esports Global Championship by half a tenth. Can you explain that to us, please?
I mean, half a tenth is incredibly close. To lose out by that sort of is quite literally the difference between pressing the accelerator at a quarter of a second, at tenth of a second. So that for me is really, really sort of like hairs of time. But for Gregory, he definitely is going to have a lot of work to do today because he is starting 16th on the grid. So with that in mind, we are going to take a look now at Kyle Domark and David Bosger as we're just talking about the favourites. We've got Kyle and David coming up. It'd be interesting to hear what they have to say going into the start of this season and get a look at how they're going to perform. And then we'll come back to you in just a few minutes.
My name is Kyle Domark from Hinckley, Illinois. I'll be driving the Mustang GT3 in the Crown Racing Series.
My name is David Bosga. I'm from Liège, Belgium, and this season I'll be driving the Ferrari GT3 on the Crown Racing Series.
That was Kyle Domark and David Bosger. For me, David Bosger has been inspired by Formula One, which is really a starting block for a lot of racing, whether it be iRacing, whether it be IndyCar, you name it. Formula One does sort of present a big inspiration for a lot of drivers, whereas Kyle Domark, he comes from multi-generational racing family, so it is quite literally in his blood. So the rivalry there is going to be intense. As we can look from the timings, we've actually got David Bosger is coming in at second with a 157.188. However, we have to go down the ratings somewhat to find Kyle, and Kyle actually hasn't posted the time yet, which is interesting. So hopefully he will post the time. We don't want to start with 16 cars instead of 17. But in saying that, Kyle is incredibly level-headed and calm, so hopefully he can put a lap together and get himself up the racing order before the start. Shannon, what do you think about the challenges between David and Kyle?
I think it's really interesting how Kyle comes from a multi-generational racing background. Just thinking about how they spend Christmases together, how they spend New Year's together, how they spend summers together. They might be even traveling, to Silverstone for a race, or going to Finland for Christmas to, like do a race car,
Awesome.
lap. So I think that's a really big push that his dad has put him into racing, because he got him into go-karting since he was 4 years old. Imagine being a 4-year-old kid and just racing it through the go-kart tracks. And that feeling of winning is what made himself and him keep at it. So I think he definitely has what it takes, the momentum, the conviction, and the drive to become the winner here. I think what really is great about him is that he is very level-headed, and that's what you need as a race car driver. One setback that he has had, that he has talked about, was having a lot of team endurance races where he's made a mistake or two, where the co-driver has made a mistake that took them out of contention. And he's tried his best to keep going, but in the end, he comes back and races them again every single year. So I guess in this teamwork setting, he has a bit of a setback. But this is an individual race, so I don't think he's going to have much.
When you have a reliance on co-drivers and stuff like that, always is going to be part of it because you do work on a more teamwork basis. But when we're talking about solo driving championships, these two have got very clear sets that they are aiming for top 5 finishes. Kyle has already said that his aim is to at least finish in the top 5, and David is already targeting podium positions. So that is huge going into this championship, but they both want to improve on their qualifying performance. As I've said, Kyle yet to post yet to post a time. Going back to the qualifying, and Balaz is still top of the order, David is still second, and Ryan Woodrow is still third, and Danny Neo is still in fourth. So we are just 1 minute away from seeing Ryan Woodrow and Cosford come out for their little introduction chat. What I will say is we really do want to focus on putting a spotlight on the drivers and how they perform behind the wheel, because it's not just about the machinery. That's why we do have fixed setups here at CRS, and that's also why we are looking for the stories behind the drivers as well, because that is incredibly important in terms of how this whole series is going to come to a head. So that is something that is going to be incredibly exciting to see. And also, as Shannon said earlier, it could just take one little nudge, one little mistimed braking point, and it could all change down the order. So we've got a few seconds left, and we're going to be introducing Ryan Woodrow. And of course, we are also going to be introducing Cody Cosford as well, and then we're going to have a couple more minutes talking about them. So guys, we'll be back in a minute.
There is a lie that all drivers tell themselves. No, not that one. This one runs deeper and is far more complex than the innate instinct for survival.
My name is Ryan Woodrow. I'm 31 years old, from Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. I'll be driving the Chevrolet Corvette Z06 GT3R for Season 1 of the Crown Racing Series.
There is a lie that all drivers tell themselves. And no, it's not about their safety.
A really interesting overview there, and two more exciting drivers that come into the CRS Championship. Again, the excitement is building and building as we get closer to 7 o'clock with official qualifying as well. We'll give you a rundown of the drivers and their pace as we go. But let's talk about Ryan Woodrow. Shannon, do you want to give us a brief overview?
Yes, so Ryan Woodrow is number 44 on the tracks right now. His racing journey began casually on the console, but his focus shifted dramatically after a life-altering motorcycle accident in 2016. Unfortunately, that happened, and during his long-time recovery, he discovered the world of sim racing, so it doesn't actually have to be in person. Simulated racing is great for that, and began his competitive career in 2017, a year after. His talent quickly emerged, highlighted by a second place finish in the 2020 Logitech McLaren G Challenge North America. And following that success, he transitioned to PC and proved his consistency in top-tier Assetto Corsa Competizione championships in Italy. And his ACC resume includes high-level finishes in SRO, Lamborghini, TCR Virtual, and Ferrari Velas Esports regional finals. And lastly, in 2024, he moved to iRacing, immediately capturing special event class wins, including the Nürburgring 24H.
Yep, so Nürburgring 24-hour race, that is a huge cap in your crown for sure. Now, Cody Cosford is very similar in that respect because he is also an incredibly competitive driver. I will say that although their introduction to sport is quite different, I will also say that they have very similar drive and ambition. Cody, for example, he didn't see motorsport as a viable option growing up, and again, casually got into it through just PC gaming. But what has happened for him is he's had an early straight of 5 championships, which is huge, as well as being involved in British indoor karting championships as well. So there is a lot of competition throughout the grid, which is so exciting for me personally. What I will say is that having these drivers posting incredible times and seeing all these early challenges between 2 or 3 drivers is a fantastic start for this season. Again, with Cody, he really does want to establish himself at the top of the order if he can. We talked about our favourites. Where do you see Cody in terms of favourites for this race?
Well, I think, you know, his story from rags to riches, I think, is something that is extremely, extremely influencing to me. influenced me to kind of like rank him on #1 for like my top favorite driver himself. He's currently looking for a sponsor, so I'm not sure how he's getting on with that. I would love to ask him during our interviews afterwards. But I think this kind of like, you know, this kind of story is something that I think a lot of audience members can resonate to. If you're looking for something that you want to pursue in life that doesn't just need you to use money to buy for it, it needs your, you know, like energy, it needs your commitment and your conviction. I think Cody Cosworth is someone that you can really look up to.
And that is a big part of CRS as a whole, because we are looking at the human element behind the driving. It's not just about the cars, it's not just about the speed, it is about everything that you bring to it as a driver and as a human being as well. With that in mind, let's go to our overview of Crown Racing Series.
At the heart of racing lies a story, and it is so old, so natural, that we no longer stop to appreciate it, yet we have been telling it forever.
In this crucible, the real heroes are not the cars, they are not the liveries, but they are you, our drivers. You are not interchangeable. You are not faceless numbers in a race. You are the inaugural drivers for CRS, and we are proud to have you with us on this journey.
When the battle raging trackside reflects the battle within, the only path to the light is through the darkness.
So over the decades, Silverstone has evolved constantly. The track layout has changed. There have been many, many developments, but one significant one is that CRS will race at Silverstone in iRacing. Now, this is huge for the sport. This is huge for everyone, as we have seen some legendary drivers, legendary races, and also legendary rivalries unfold at Silverstone, and we are hoping for exactly the same in round 1 of the CRS Championship. So with that in mind, we are about to launch the Crown Racing Series. We are riding into round 1 at Silverstone, and we are looking to see just what is going to unfold. I can tell you right now that David Bosga is currently at the head of the qualifying round, and so is Balazs Erdélé and Luciano Vitvo. As we said, they are early favourites for the championship. But in terms of favourites for the championship, in terms of someone that we do want to talk to and hear as much about as we can, is Simon Attrill. So we are going to pass to Simon for our studio interview. And Simon, are you with us?
Yes. Can you hear me okay?
Can hear you just fine, Simon. How are you?
I'm very well, thank you. How are you?
Very well, very well. Incredibly excited.
Yeah, no, it's been a bit of a journey to get to season 1, race 1, but yeah, really excited to see it come together.
Yep, you and me both. Just looking at the qualifying times coming through at the moment, it's going to be quite the race going into this evening. So incredibly excited across the board. Shannon, do you want to kick us off?
Yeah, for sure. Now, for starters, Simon, what kind of thoughts do you have right now, as of this moment right now, for this race?
Just excitement, to be honest. We, it's been a lot of work with the backroom team and the drivers to obviously get us to where we are today. We put quite a lot of work in a few weeks ago on the non-championship race to get everything kind of tested and ironed out. Honestly, it's been quite smooth running over the last couple of weeks, preparing the drivers. So I'm just really excited to see everyone out there on track and to see the league come to life.
And may I know where you're calling from?
Yes, I'm based in Calgary.
Oh, wow. Calgary. Wait, Calgary is in Canada, right?
You got it.
Geography.
So, Simon, we've talked about some of the key parts of CRS and in terms of the regulation stuff. What are the drivers coming up against going into round one?
Yeah, I mean, if we just talk a little bit about the race format, they've got 20 minutes of open qualifying, so of course that's what you're seeing now. Quite an interesting qualifying format because that's quite a limited amount of time. They all start on the same fuel level because they are running a fixed setup. Of course, it is nighttime out there right now, so that's something else to bear in mind. And then, because they've started on that fixed fuel level, they've got to think about, how do they look after the tires? When is the right time to push? Is there benefit in being in people's slipstreams over the course of that 20 minutes? So, you tend to see a lot of the tactical nuances in the race, but actually in this series, we're going to see quite a bit of that during qualifying as well.
Yeah, looking to get a tow through Maggotts and Becketts would be ideal, I think, going into this one. Simon,
yeah, absolutely.
This is the launch for CRS. This is round one. Is there anything you're expecting to see come start of the race?
One of the things that I spent a bit of time with the drivers on in the drivers briefing actually is just for them to exercise caution. It's an interesting start of the races, so it's going to be a rolling start. That will be the same for all of the races in the series. We'll have the pace car come into the pits, but then there is a sort of a two-corner chicane before the green flag will be flown. So what I'm looking for, to be honest, from a lead commissioner perspective, is just to make sure the drivers are safe and cautious up until we get that green flag, just because they're going to be bunched together, it's going to be dark, and I really want everyone to kind of get through those last two corners before the race begins so that we can have a good race, no one picks up any kind of incidents or damage going into the race, and then really just excited to see how the 50 minutes unfolds.
Yep, you and me both. It's quite interesting looking at the qualifying times and the mix of drivers, and quite a stacked difference from first to last at the moment. In terms of how close with the fixed setup, do you think that this is going to bring the pack closer together, or is it something that will play into more experienced drivers' hands?
I think because one of the other rules that we have in place for CRS for this series is all of the drivers must commit to a car choice and they must run that car over the course of the season. So when they were making their car choices, about 3 to 4 weeks ago, they of course knew the tracks that we are going to race at. They knew that it would be a fixed setup. And so for each of the drivers, they've got to make that balance between, what are the cars that they are most comfortable in. And we've got quite a stacked grid. We've got a lot of top tier drivers. Most of these drivers can apply themselves really to any of those GT3 cars, but which are the ones that they think they can get the most out of, but also get the most out of all of the different types of tracks that we have. I'm happy to see that we do have a mixture of cars. That's always the danger when you run a fixed series, whether people just gravitate to one. Certainly the Mustang and the Ferrari have been the two most popular choices, but based on what we saw in the non-championship race, it's pretty even at the top. I think it's really going to come down to hours that the drivers have put in, knowledge of the track, and just ultimately down to their skill. I love a fixed setup because it really narrows the components that can separate one car from another car, and it really leans on the driver skill to see who's going to be the best.
Yeah, we've definitely seen dark horses in terms of a couple of drivers going with the Porsche as opposed to a Ford or Ferrari, which was interesting for me to see, definitely, as you say, with the fixed setup. Simon, I just want to say a huge thank you from us here in the studio. As we say, let's go racing. So thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you very much.
You got it. Enjoy the race, everyone.
Cheers, Simon. So, guys, you heard it here. It is almost time. We are moments away from the start of CRS round 1. I'm incredibly excited. Shannon?
Yes, me too.
Yep, I can tell you just the qualifying at the moment. Luciano Wittvoet, a 1:57.564 has been posted, and he is currently at the top of qualifying. Nikolai Pedersen has come in second at the moment with a 1:57.571, only 700ths behind. And then we've got Balaz in third, Balaz Erdalei, and then we've got David Bosga in fourth. Ryan Woodrow, currently in the pit, is in fifth. Then we've also got Danny Neo, Gregory Hoverson, Michael Neg, Igor Boss and Joop de Vos make up our top 10. I can confirm that Kyle Domark has posted the time now, so that's good news for Kyle. We aren't cutting to the track just yet, so we're just going to go back over. Do we have any dark horses in your opinion for the championship?
Yeah. I think some potential dark horses that several drivers showed enough in testing and in past competition to suggest podium threats would be Alexander Pollock. He was actually one of our top drivers last time. He had 15 years of sim racing work and deep experience on Assetto Corsa Competizione in Italy, and consistency could definitely pay off across the season. Second of all would be Ryan Woodrow, which we mentioned earlier. He returned to top-level competition after a major motorcycle accident in 2016. He has class wins at the Nürburgring 24-hour race with a strong run at the Ferrari Velas Esports Regionals. And last of all, there's Cody Cosford, who built his career from the ground up. He has multiple esports titles and has real-world karting results, plus seats with Brabham and Jensen Button's esports teams. So these are my top 3 dark horses.
Love it. That's definitely interesting. Definitely something to look forward to going into race day. I want to touch on Alex Pollock as well, actually, because he's someone who has been consistent. He is incredibly competitive, and he, for me, is a driver that can definitely, certainly from the midfield, get a lot of work done and at least challenge for a top 5 place. Obviously, we saw during the non-season opener that Luciano is posting times to beat, which is quite incredible and something well worth watching. But never rule out drivers that are starting in the middle of the pack, because they can find that slipstream. Like Simon said, they can find good toe, and also having to pit and having to find that extra 10th of a second, it can all go right and it can all go wrong very quickly. We are just moments away, guys, from the start of CRS Season 1. You've had the commissioner, you've seen some of the drivers, you've heard some of the human stories behind CRS. If it's not coming across, I'm incredibly excited to see this start, and I'm really looking forward to seeing what the drivers can pull out of the bags. So to give you an overview, we have got Silverstone racetrack, as you know. The weather is looking clear. There's a 4-kilometer wind, which shouldn't really be too much of a factor, and there's 70% humidity. So all these sort of factors going in. It's only 10 degrees, but that is England for you. And then your commentators will be Jeremy Scott and Alexa Marshall. Guys, I'm going to be sitting back and enjoying this one. I'm going to be talking you through the final part of qualifying before we go racing. Luciano is still top of the boards, and Nikolai and David Bosga are still second and third. If we go down to the lower ends, I won't say the last, lower ends, Federico Alberti, a 1:59.574. He's got to find 2 seconds from somewhere to get himself up the field. Some of the drivers we've spoken about going into the championship, we've spoken about Gregory Hoverson. Gregory is a 1:57.97, so he's posted 7th fastest at the moment. Joop de Vos makes up our top 10. Then we've got Cody Cosford in 11th with a 1:58.457. So the drivers are still posting times at the moment, but with that in mind, it doesn't look like anyone's going to be beating Luciano Wittvoet to pole position. So with a few seconds left, we are going to be cutting to racetrack and to our commentary team. Shannon, any last words?
I just want to mention that Alexander Pollock is actually a very cool father. He is from Leipzig, Germany, and he wants his son to get into it as well. So I wonder whether there are some like weekend racing fun that has to be had with them, and whether they do some sim racing together.
Amazing. So guys, as they say, this is CRS. Let's go racing.
And thank you, Shannon and Jamie. Welcome to the first Crown Racing Series race here at Silverstone. Of course, Alexa Marshall's joining me. Alexa, you know what they say. It's always you want to win two things first. It's the championship and it's the first round, because that's where you get your name out there.
Yeah, I mean, you never know what's going to happen in round number one, but it is always the one where you make your mark. It's your first impression, everybody's going to be watching it, and it's the one where you want to make it clear what your intentions are and how you are looking going into this season. Personally, Silverstone as well, one of the best circuits out there, and it's personally one of my favourites. I cannot wait for this.
You know, I'm a big fan of tracks that have elevation, but when it comes to tracks where it doesn't have elevation, this is an absolute banger of a facility. You're watching Nikolai Peterson right now, 1/100th of a second off of Whitvett's fast time of a 57.53. Let's see if the Danish driver can make something happen, working his way through Stowe, now down the Vale Straight and into that's the chicane, which is going to catch his drivers, especially the GT3 drivers, out so much. And that's going to be it for Peterson as the checker flag is out on this session. Look at how tight that front row is as Maggotts, the Romanian, works his way down the hangar straight. And of course, this is going to be a very important straight, Alexa, for drivers, especially near the end of this 50-minute race.
I mean, especially, you come out of Chapel and just after Maggotts and Becketts, Hangar's the one where you're really going to be getting that slipstream, and like you said, towards the end of the race as well, it gives you the opportunity for one of those final moves, especially with this Vale chicane that, of course, we've just gone through on board with Maggotts. So, realistically, that's where you're going to be making most of your moves tonight. You've also got Wellington, but it's to the line, and that is going to be staying where they are for the time being. Right now, on board with Alexander Paulik. They are one of the last few out there, and currently sat P number 12. Although, it is looking pretty tidy for him, not that far behind Cody Cosford.
Bozga comes across the line with a 57.644, the best time he could do. Let's see if Paulik can do across the line up to 11th with a 58.429. So already you take a look at the top half of the field and it is tight. I'm expecting big things out of this first race here at Silverstone. Of course, a very challenging track, whether you're running open wheels or sports cars, especially in GT3. We've seen some of the best races here in sports cars regardless, but as you take a look at the original Grand Prix pits, it's looking nice and dark here as we are just about set to grid up and get ready for this first ever race in the Crown Racing Series. Again, it is a 50-minute race with no safety car intervention. So once the pace car pulls off, Alexa, it's game on for 50 minutes.
It's all game on at the end of the day, and looking at what these drivers have done in the past, it is definitely an interesting one across the board. I am going to be looking at Piatek, although, because in the past, it's been interesting. They were also up there, no surprise from them. Also, you're going to have Hovinson, who is in that field as well. I'm looking on the Terminary, and they are down in P number 7. Of course, we'll get your full grid up for you in just a moment as we get ready for this race around Silverstone. But it's a nice mix out there tonight, and we're definitely going to be going into an interesting one. This is your grid order for tonight as we go from the bottom, Jeremy.
Yeah, it's Federico Alberti, shotgun on the field. Then you go back to row 8. Kyle Domark didn't run any laps in practice. We'll see if that'll hamper them or help them with Conrad Kulo alongside. Andrea Pagnini and Caden Richardson alongside each other in row 7. Row 6, Cody Cosford and Alexander Paulik. Now you move on to your top 10. It is a tight battle near the front, but you still have Joop de Vos and Igor Kost alongside each other. Maggotts and the Canadian Gregory Hovison make up row 4. Row 3, Danny Neo and Ryan Woodrow are rounding out that row. Then you go to Balas Erde and David Bozga in row 2. And your front row, Nikolai Peterson and Luciano Whitvedt in that row. Take a look at the gap between them two. 0.014 seconds separate those, the Danish and the Dutch driver on the front row. And of course, the top half of that top top 10, Alexa, less than 0.3 of a second.
Indeed it is, but even the field, I would say, is pretty tight altogether, because looking at the past, I mentioned him before, it is Alexander Paulik down in P number 11 here, but I'm gonna say that's who I'm gonna have my eye on especially, because like Shannon and Jamie did say in the pre-race, there was a race before this season as a bit of a pre-season, and it would be P number 2 for Alexander Paulik. So how are they gonna fare starting a little bit lower down the field? I wouldn't be surprised if they start to go on a bit of a charge and start to side through, but you want to keep it nice and clean on lap number 1 as we currently sit on hanger. Of course, like they also said, you're going to be making your way through these final few corners to get down towards the Silverstone wing for your race start and the green flag.
And that doesn't worry me too much. It's going into Village in the loop is when we see a lot of problems on these rolling starts. So that's going to be interesting to watch that. Of course, Brooklands is also another tight spot here in the open. Couple of laps as the pace car pulls off. We're just about set. The field going through the club chicane for the final time at slow speeds. Next time they come down this way and onto the Hamilton Straight, it will be at full speed. And they'll be ending lap 1 of the Crown Racing Series for the first time. Green flag is out, and so far so good. Whitbeck gets to an early lead. Nikolai Peterson, though, closing and trying to hold off Bozga as they're side by side for second place. Gower, you got to spin. 1, 2, 3, 4 cars are already off, and there's several cars. It's Hovsen and Neo, the first 2 cars off, but Whitfett already watching the battle for second place heat up.
Already having that incident there. Woodrow also there, Angelo Pagani and Cardian Richardson in the background as well. And that 5 or 3 cars all the way through the loop now on to Wellington. It sits like that, as you see on the left side of your screen. Whitlow got an absolutely amazing start there, but is he going to be able to hold it? He's already opened it up to a second in the first few corners. Now it is all to play for. Down in towards Brooklands and Lovefield. Down the inside is Blas Erdley, as that is a lovely move by the driver, and they get themselves up in a P number 2, but now the defensive game comes into play out through Woodcourt and onto the old pit straight.
Well, as you saw there, Bozga and Peterson kind of dancing a little bit, and Erdele decided he was just going to slip right through that open door. Still side by side for third between Bozga and Peterson. Right now, the Ferrari has that advantage. You're back there with 3 wide going into Copse. You don't necessarily want to do that, as we saw a couple of years ago during the British Grand Prix. We've got Nag, Pollock, and Richardson sitting there for the battle for 7th place. Pollock trying to get up to that 7th place, as everybody trying to find some dicing through Maggotts, Becketts, and Chapel. And with that, your leader with Erdely sitting there in 2nd place. What a move that was out of the Ford Mustang.
Indeed it was. You seize the opportunity and you take it. Down the inside is hard to make a mark, but he's now sat P number 2 is the Hungarian, but he's going to have to defend it as he's got the Belgium driver of Bozga right behind him. David looks for the inside line and they will take it wheel to wheel, side by side, now through the Vale chicane, onto the exit and into Club Corner, onto Lewis Hamilton straight, but do not count out Peterson. He's right there with him. A little bit of contact on the exit, but onto Lewis Hamilton, still wheel to wheel, side by side between these drivers. It's going to be Blunson, as they Erdely is also going to be right there. Peterson also going to have Bozga right there. David is going to go right there with him, wheel to wheel. It's all to play for a square down in towards Village and then the loop. This is racing action which you do not want to miss.
And Bozga had that advantage going into the loop and heading towards Aintree, but this has given Whitford a chance to open up a 2.5 second lead over his closest competitors going through the Wellington Straight once again. What a fantastic couple of laps we have seen. You've got several batches of races here. The battle for 2nd, then you've got the battle for 6th, which is about a 4 or 5 car back, but this battle for 2nd is absolutely stellar. Now through Brooklands and into Luffield once again. You see one of the few Porsches in the field working their way through. There's Cody Cosfor trying to stay in that top 10. Now up to 9th is Caden Richardson in the Mercedes. He'll fall back 1 spot. They're still side by side. Look at this view. Little bit of rubbing going into Copse. And so far, everybody clean. Obviously, we had Hofson and Neo with that early race incident, but they are on the track, albeit several seconds down. And just, you know, this is not a place you want to make a move going through Maggotts and Becketts. But I'll say this. Richardson really looking his chops.
He's absolutely loving it out there as we look over at the diffuser and towards Kuhle's car just behind him. Konrad Kuhle, 4 positions up since this race start, looking to get inside that top 10. There is Nikolai M. Pedersen, who is trying to hold on to this one. He's still got that Ferrari chasing it down in the back. 4 versus Ferrari, it never gets old. Be careful though, because it is realistically an opportunity for any of these drivers. Vale never gives it up, but there is Angelo Pagani, who is going to be losing out for the moment. He has just been overtaken by Woodrow. This is definitely an interesting mix of cars out there tonight, because you never know who is going to be able to make those moves, because every single car is different and it's driver's skill. But now Dan Lewis Hamilton again into Abbey, as this is going to be a replay here. This is Homerson at the start, and this is going down into turn number 1 from the helicopter cam. And that is going to be what happened. Rear end slips out, it seems, and no, in fact, that was from the Honda on the right-hand side of that. So that is really
that was actually
for them.
So yeah, that was a Corvette of Ryan Woodrow. Just lost it going into Abbey, which you don't normally see, but Woodrow just having problems on that first lap coming around the loop, able to get through there. And yeah, that's what we saw early on. Once again, here's a shot from Woodrow. As you see on board, tries to go for a pass on the inside. Just hit back end, step it out on Woodrow. And that's something that we have seen out of the Corvettes early on in the race, especially when the tires aren't that warm. But something I was going to mention, Alexa, when I was doing my notes, I found it interesting. So some of these GT3 series, you see more and more Aston Martins. We have no Aston Martins in the field. It's a mix of heavy Ford Mustang and Ferrari, with just 1 Corvette, 1 Mercedes, and 2 Porsches in the field as well, with as you're on board with Andrea Pagnini, one of the drivers who is a Porsche driver this series.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing with the Porsche, which I find, though. It is very good at turning in these corners, and from the calendar, which drivers know, it may be that that's just the optimal car to go with, as right up the rear end of the car is going to be Woodrow. They are hounding and looking for the move once again as they head out through Stowe Corner and down towards the Vale Chicane one more time. P number 12 chasing P number 11, and that is now very close to the rear end. They're keeping pace with each other, which is what you love to see. It's always great to see close racing action like we are seeing, but now it seems on the exit, Kuhle is getting the advantage there. So Konrad Kuhle may be having a little bit of a setup difference to Ryan Woodrow, and maybe optimising for corners compared to straight line speed.
Well, it is a fix setup, as you remember, too. I do appreciate the Dollywood paint scheme, though. I will say that. But as you remember, that Ferrari is a lot better on top-end speed, which is no surprise there. Yeah, so Kuhle doing his best to keep Woodrow behind. Woodrow is going to have to really hone down, especially through Brooklands, Luffield, and Woodcott, as once again, that's a nice look, and as Woodrow likes to do, likes to prove me wrong and actually stay on the back end of that prancing horse through Luffield into Woodcott. Looks like somebody went off a little bit there as we see some gravel on the outside of the circuit. Hey, Nikolai Peterson, your second place driver, trying to close in on your leader, Whitvet, 2.3 seconds, 57.722, the fastest lap. You take a look out of the front of that Ford Mustang, you see a lot of land, you barely see Whitvet, but also have this battle for position between Hofson and Kyle Domark. As mentioned, Kyle comes from a racing family, and I've got to say this, I think I know why Kyle missed practice. This area got about a foot of snow, so he's probably out there trying to dig himself out and get ready for this race. But nonetheless, he's still showing some decent times as he's running the same time as the leader. Here's Cody Kosfer trying to hold off Podlick, the German, in heading through the back part of the circuit.
Yeah, and they're both in the same car, both in fixed setup, so now looks to the outside line down into Vale. That will give the inside on the exit, but either way, it's still a stellar defence by the Scotsman, and now Paulick is going to be right on the rear end. Alexander Paulick round onto Lewis Hamilton straight. And I do want us to talk about this real quick, as we are 8 minutes in, so compared to the race starts, the top 4 are all yet to make up any positions. They are where they started. It's 4 positions gained for Igor Kos and Yupa Der Vos, with 1 position gained for Mahani Neg. 4 positions for Cody Cosford, 2 positions for Alexander Paulek, 3 positions for Cadin Richardson. Konrad Kula gets 4 positions as well. 7 positions down since the race start is Ryan Rudrow with 1 position gain for Andale Pagani, 3 positions gain for Frederic Alberti, 8 positions down for Gregory Halvorsen, and still where they started for Kyle Domark with Danny Neo 11 positions down since that race start. So of course Gregory Halvorsen and Danny Neo had that incident earlier on, and that has really hindered their race so far, but we'll wait and see what can happen because we're only 8 minutes in and this is a 50-minute race after all.
You saw Alexander close in on Cody Cosford there as they're working their way through Luffield. And really, you take a look at the stats. You've got Pollock, who's a recent class winner at the 24 Hours of Nürburgring Hofsten. I was watching his progress. He's really coming up through the field. He's already gained 2 spots since that off, so I think Hofsten probably has a lot to play for here. He's down 7 from that early race incident that we saw the replay from as Alberti trying to hold on to the back of that Mustang. But I've got to say, Federico's going to have a lot to work for here. You also have this battle, go back to this battle with Richardson, Kula, Woodrow, as Ryan Woodrow goes around the inside there through Copps, still able to make it happen. I should say that's not Copps, pardon me, that's Stowe, but Kula really closing in through the chicane, and that is going to be interesting to see if that top end speed of that Ferrari, like we mentioned, as Caden Richardson is into the pits.
Yeah, interesting opportunity there for him, maybe opting for an early stop just to take an advantage, maybe get out the traffic a little bit, what we are seeing now. So that's going to be coming into effect later on as they're going to be opening up, getting a bit of clean air out there at Silverstone. So we will keep an eye on them. But looking at the rest of this field, you did mention fastest lap out there, 157.692 for Ergal. But now, with the Fords out there as well, there's a lot of them, and Ferraris. I'm looking at this battle right now because there is Danny Neo in the Ford Mustang themselves versus Kyle Domark. It's wheel to wheel, side by side. They've got the Ferrari leading just in front of them, but it's wheel to wheel onto Wellington. Hopping into the rear toe is going to be Kyle Domark though. Maybe down into Brooklands and Lutfield, but it's never over until it's over. He's opened up the gap a bit as Danny Neo. He's now coming onto the back of Federico Alberti, looking through Lutfield and then through to Woodcote. Really on the inside here. Throttle is going to be an advantage here. Also, Ford Mustang, quite a bit known for its straight line speed. Will it get it here into the toe as they head down the old pit straight? Moves to the right hand side, looking on the inside towards Copps Corner. Onto the inside, and it's going to be contact between the two from that angle. Alberti goes round, but able to catch it. They go onto the tarmac on the exit of Copps.
Copps is such a high-risk corner to make some sort of pass happen. As we take a look at the replay here, we see Neo just all over the back of Alberti, and Federico just not sure what in the axis of danger right there. Just gets that bump, and Neo, that's got to be interesting. Something to watch out for. A lot of these drivers are already copying some penalty points. We both know that it's sometimes a very narrow window. It is 20 incident points where you will get your first black flag, and according to the rules here, there's no expectation that race control will clear black flags, so really got to mind your P's and Q's, especially in this first race. And something else we forgot to mention, if you are watching the bonus points, Alexa, it's 3 bonus points for fastest lap, with 32 points going to the winner. So you could get 35 points to start off the season if you win and get the fastest lap of the race.
Yeah, I mean, just imagine the momentum boost and maybe even just a confidence boost as well, getting all those points, thinking about, I've got so many, I can carry this on, I can do this at the rest of the season, and it can really help you out in that mindset. So many points on the line. Is the higher that you get, it really is an interesting factor here at the Crown Racing Series as you go once again through Brooklands and Lutfield. Still on the back of Cody Cosford is Ryan Woodrow, Alexander Paulek and Konrad Kula. Also going to have Andale Pagani on the back of this. So even though it may not look like it apart from this camera angle, it is really nose to tail in this fight with Cosford in ahead with 4 astern. On the exit of Copps Corner, that's going to be advantage on the exit. It's going to be Ryan Woodrow round the outside, and yeah, he is going to get that done. Maggotts just before Becketts, actually.
I was going to say, Woodrow with a nice little run there coming out of Cops and sets up through Maggotts. And that was an interesting place to pass as they go down the hangar straight once again. So at the head of this 8th place train, it's Woodrow. And now Cosford and Pollock going to look to the inside. Not going to make anything happen, though. Oh, man, I thought Cosford was going to take some sort of look there as we're looking out of the front of Pollock, the German running the Ferrari. And I've got to say this, Cosford with a defensive line, but he's going to have a tougher line going through club.
Indeed he is, but now you've also got this one happening behind Konrad Kula on the back of Paulik. It's going to be advantage to this driver. Looks to the right hand side, does the Polishman, but now going into turn number 1 of Abbey, it's got to back out a little bit, maybe not taking the optimal line, being a bit cautious and waiting for a straight. You could see that a few times by these drivers. It is always safer to pass on a straight, but a corner is always an advantage. As down the inside is going to go Paulik on Cosford. That was a bit out of no, but it's a little bit of wheel banging, but they're still going to go at it on the inside now onto the exit, onto Wellington. They're still side by side. We get a perfect view on board with Kula. This is on board with Cody Cosford. He's on the right hand side, Paulik on the left hand side, down into Brooklands. Contact between the two again. A little bit of door banging, and I think that is Cosford. Yes, it is. Off the circuit, has to rejoin. Now he's up against Kula.
The Scottish driver trying to hold on to the top 10 right now is Kula, who's been cool as a cucumber. Has Pagnini behind him as well. So got a whole bunch of Ferraris with a Porsche wanting to get into the mix. Here's the replay of that incident. That was just an interesting overtake. So a little bit of a scrape there as Pollock sacrifices the village and goes through the loop side by side. That's when we start to see the beating and banging headed down through Aintree and in Wellington straight. It's I mean, you know, here's the thing. You get a good run into Wellington, and it sets you up. And let's see the incident that kind of led to the end of that battle. I would call that racing incident because they were both rubbing elbows and kind of running each other ragged there.
Yeah, I'll definitely agree. I think that's just some hard racing there, trying to keep your position. Maybe a little bit too early turning, but either way, they're still on the circuit and they are still racing, so didn't affect them too much, just losing out the position did Cosford. But now, this is the man who is up top by an absolute margin of Luciano Wittwowitz. So they are flying as there is Lucania. Sorry, I apologise for my bad pronunciation. Luciano Pedersen. I apologise for my bad pronunciation. Still getting used to all these driver names. As the Danish driver is currently sat P number 2, and that gap has been staying pretty consistent from what I've seen. But keep in mind, you were mentioning the 3 extra points, Jeremy. This man currently has them with a 1 minute 57.601 being the fastest lap of the race so far.
And it's okay, Alexa. English is tough. Trust me, for somebody who speaks for a living, I totally understand. But here's the thing with Peterson. He's trying to hold off Bozga, who's been all over the back of Peterson the whole time. But also, you got to stop and think here. Bozga is the meat in this Ford Mustang sandwich, as you Balzas Erdely sitting right there in 4th place. Your top 4 really haven't moved too much. And that's the view out of Luciano Wittwowitz, the driver out of the Netherlands. Take a look at the bottom right-hand side of your screen. You see that gap. It shrank a little bit after lap 6, but since then, it's really grown. So really, at this point, Wittwowitz has put his head to the grindstone and has been able to open up that gap. Well, he hasn't gotten fast lap after fast lap. He's still running a 1/10 of a second faster than everybody else behind him, mainly because he's not having to defend. He's only worrying about what's ahead of him. You take a look at that little viewfinder back there, which points out what's behind him, and he's not seeing anything. So, why not just get out there and just run your best laps?
Yeah, I think anybody who does some racing also knows that clean air is always your best friend and you want to use it, as this is further back, currently on board with Gregory Hobson, as they have got, of course, man behind in the Spaniard who is chasing them down, trying to defend it. Of course, Danny Neo currently fighting this field, continuously going down as the sky is orange here tonight at Silverstone. Either way, that is another thing I want to think about here actually. That sky, it is orange. Could there be a slight bit of sun glare? Although down the inside goes Danny Neo down into Village, wheel to wheel between the two drivers. It's going to be Hobson on the inside, Canadian versus Spaniard, but now it is once again Gregory Hobson who is able to hold on to it from the Great White North here at Silverstone.
Well, a couple of things I want to point out with Hobson. Gregory and Danny both run with each other at IVRs. Neo goes deep into the inside through Brooklands. They're side by side. Look at this. This is how you get through there without making any sort of pass, not even touching. Take a look at the damage there on Gregory's Mustang. It's a little bit of a wiggle coming out of left field, setting up for Woodcott, and now they're both taking a defensive line. Let's hang on board with this. Oh, you can see the whites of Neo's eyes as he looks to the outside of Cops. Gonna go just a little bit deeper. They're side by side, and Neo is gonna lose any chance that he had as he compromised the exit going through Cops. But the reason why these two drivers are so good together, they've raced with each other in IVRA, and as you know, IVRA, that is such a contentious championship for GT3s, as Pollock is going to try to get to the inside of Cosford right there for position. Looks like Kula and Pagnini really closing in as well, going through the back part of the circuit. But yeah, if you race with somebody enough up and down the schedule, you're gonna know their quirks, you're gonna know how they race, and that's what makes the series like this so much fun.
It is down the inside. Oh, and that's going to be rear end slipping out, it seems, and that's going to be contact into Paulik, who does now get it past. But that seemed like the rear end slipped out, unless it was a tap on the rear end that we missed. But that happened to Kula on the exit through Club. That is not what you want, and that's going to drop him all the way down to P15. This is the replay from the helicopter cam, and in fact, onto the inside, and rear end just goes on him, and does get corrected the right way, but unfortunately, the car has other ideas.
Federico Alberti into the pits, but I would say that's the case of the back end. Wanted to see what the front end's looking like, but Alexa, I've got to say that looks like it was just way too fast through Club and down the Hamilton straight. And that's exactly what happened. Is Kula, look at that steering wheel. It's all the way positioned to the right. So this might be a race ender for the Polish drivers. Conrad is trying to tiptoe his way around the circuit.
Yeah, I think that'll be rear suspension damage, possibly. Just trying to keep the car in its current position, because you did see the tap on the car, so that's probably where the damage has been picked up. But there is Lucanio with the wit, and there is Nikolai and Pedersen, as they are still in this. The gap has not really changed that much. It does fluctuate between 2.5 and 2.8, it seems, around the lap time, but either way, it's still a nice fight in this, because you've got Pedersen, who's right there, but you've also got Bosga, and you've got Erdely, who is in that, as Erdely's going to get that move. As you're also watching Paulik and Pagania, as they are currently fighting, as they continue out of Stowe now, down in towards the Vale chicane. P number 10 in this fight in the current moment, trying to make their way through and hold on to this line. There is Gregory Hobson, who is in the fight with Danny Neo, as they are once again nose to tail through this final section of the Silverstone Circuit and onto the Lewis Hamilton straight past the Silverstone wing. It is always a great view there, especially when these drivers are fighting so close together, as that is actually going to be into the pit lane like we guessed. It is Conrad Kula into the pit lane here at Silverstone.
Alberti out of the pits, 19.4 seconds. So Caden Richardson right now, your front runners are those who have pitted. Quick tip of the cap to Hovsen, as he has gained several positions since his little incident that he had. You're watching Federico Alberti, as both Alberti and Richardson will be able to get around Kula. So Richardson now jumps ahead of Kula, and Kula will be less in the field as the car is on the jacks. Drops down. Let's see if this is going to be a quick repair, or if Kula is definitely going to be stuck in the pits for a while, watching the pit stop time, and yeah, the higher it's going, I think that's going to be a race over for the Polish driver in the Ferraris. He now drops down to 17th with Federico Alberti, as you see right there, going through Abbey, goes up one position. Lots of great battles throughout the field. We've been watching the leader. There's Whitfett, and of course you look back, Pedersen with about the biggest lead that he's had for second place. So while the battle for the lead's going to be a little bit tough, this battle for the podium position between Erdely and Bozga, that's really going to heat up. It's going to be Ford over Ferrari. You're watching out of the front of Bozga in the Ferrari as he's got to try and chase down these Mustangs. And it seems like when it comes to this fixed racing setup, as we mentioned, the Mustang isn't a good all-around racer, but the Ferrari, if you could get into that, that's probably the second best one right there.
Oh yeah, definitely. I mean, I cannot disagree with that. But this is, once again, Danny Neo on the back as Cosford seemed to drop down the order, but now he's back into his position. As that was just a little blip as they continue now in this one as well. The Spaniard still chasing down the Canadian. It currently sits as we go on to 25 minutes, so nearly at the halfway point. It is Whitverwitt. It is Lucanio Whitverwitt who leads this as right on the outside, looking to get up another position is Danny Neo. He's going to try it this time round, but having a slot into the rear end, into the loop, through to Aintree, onto Wellington. It is incredibly close between these two drivers, but the podium up top is going to be Lucanio Whitverwitt, Nikolai Pedersen, and Balzers Erdely.
I've got to say, that little switchback into the loop between those two kind of hurt Neo just a little bit, but we're watching the leader. Now, I mean, you're at the point where you are seeing Pedersen 3 seconds behind. He's still within, you kind of see him in the background there, but with that, not putting a toe out of line, and that's what it's going to take to win this race. As you say, that just wiggles and drops a wheel out of place, but you really got to be fine-tuned here to win this championship. You've got a lot of very fast, very good racers all up and down the grid, and the times you see on the left-hand side of your screen, it's not really indicative because they're winners in their own right in several different series. You take a look at Luciano, and as you heard, his dad was a Seat Cup team mechanic. You look at the Seat Cup, and it is an absolutely fantastic series. You see great racing left and right. So if anyone knows how to get around a racetrack this good, it's going to be Luciano.
Yeah, and I mean, if you also take into account he only entered the sim racing scene in 2020, and he's already going around these circuits like this, it shows the skill that is truly behind that wheel. As into the pit lane is going to come Alexander Paulik, as well as the driver just in front, which is going to be Mihai Neg. So, going to start seeing most of these drivers come into the pit lane now that we are at the halfway point. So, I'm going to ask you this, Jeremy. What are we thinking about pit strategy? Because it may be a fixed setup, but each one is to their own, how they like to drive their car and how they like to go about a race.
Ooh, if I'm up at the front, I'm waiting till the last possible minute to go out and pit. Obviously, we're just past halfway in this race as Paulik and Neg both come out, and Neg still ahead of Paulik. And now Richardson gets out in front of the Ferrari. So you see Caden Richardson. Let's see what happens here if Richardson can stay in front of the two cars. And pin it, a little bit of a spin there as Richardson gets tagged by Neg. The race is a foot through the loop, and Neg, with the colder tires, able to get out there and get ahead of Richardson. By the way, Erdely, fastest lap of the race, 57.587. The drag race is on down the Wellington Straight now through Brooklands, and Richardson goes high, wide, and handsome, but not able to hold off that Mustang. I've got to say this, that Mustang is just too good, too fast. Little tap of the brakes by Neg to try not to lose it, but back underway. That was a heck of a race, and the leaders all prove me wrong. 4 out of your top 5 have all pitted, including your race leader, Luciano Whitfett. That's going to give Bozga a chance to get out front.
Yeah, he was behind in that fight about P number 3 position, so now he's going to get that clean air that Whitverwick got, and he's going to be absolutely flying around this circuit, I would say. We'll wait and see, though, how it will fare, because we just saw what happened with the pit stop with Neg and Richardson. Is that going to happen again? Could we see the people who pit a little bit later coming into the moments? But either way, it is going to be an interesting one. But the top 3 is Bosga, Woodrow, and Paganini, who is all yet to pit. So this is definitely going to become an interesting factor towards the end of this. But those top drivers all into the pits. But Lucanio, Whitverwick, what pit stop from him? Everybody's seemingly getting these pit stops nice and smooth.
I thought I heard on my comms no tires, so somebody deciding that they're just going to fill up and use race old tires. Let's see how that. Okay, so we did hear everybody took tires. Okay, but yeah, I say take a look at the pit stops. It does look like everybody did take tires. So yeah, Bosca, Woodrow, and Paganini still have yet to pit. But you take a look at the gap. It was that we saw earlier how Whitford had a 3-second lead. Well, that's been cut in half now because Peterson, his pit stop, a half second faster than your aggregate late race leader, Luciano Whitford. So let's see if that works out for Peterson. That's your Whitford and Pedersen, your top 2 from the pit stops. You're looking out of the back of Mihai Neg as he's got Caden Richardson still on the back, and Bosca is going to answer the call. He's going to come into the pits. Does Woodrow do the same? We'll find out in about 10 seconds time.
Indeed we will. We're also going to find out how they will now come out compared to the rest of the field. It's going to be an interesting factor. The Belgian driver and the American into the pits now. So how are their times going to be at the end of this? And also going to have Andrei Pagani, who is going to be into the pit lane as well. So the top 3 who didn't pit all will opt in to do so now as we approach that 30-minute mark. Just over 20 minutes remaining in this race. Here is David Bosga into his pit box, and that is nice and smooth on the throttle and on the brake, nice and clean. It's definitely an interesting one now. I'm looking at these gaps as it is coming onto the main straight now of Lucanio Whitverwick, as there is the Netherlands driver who is coming across and past the Silverstone wing. He has got that nice and tidy, it seems, but Bosga is off the blocks and he is on the roll. Where will he come out in the end of this? I think we just saw a flash of that Ferrari on the bottom of the screen. I believe, yes he has, it's going to be incredibly close between the two, but Lucanio Whitverwick is right on the rear and he's going to get the move done on the timing board. But now, this is the live scene, the wheel-to-wheel, side-by-side through the loop onto Wellington.
Yeah, but Bosca now has much fresher tires as Whitford has the 1-lap old tires. But I'll tell you what, Whitford so far has been too good, too fast. Let's see if Bosca has anything for him as that gap opens up just a little bit. But you take a look at the gap between Whitford and Pedersen, it's 1.6, 1.7 seconds. So yeah, that half second, that ate up half the time that the two had. You take a look at the replay here of this earlier pass, and Whitford goes to high, wide, and handsome through Village and sets up perfectly through the loop, and that's where the pass for the lead happened. That Premier Motorsports Ferrari just able to get through and use that inside advantage to get around Bosca. Now Bosca has losing time left and right, 0.6 of a second, so now he has to worry about that Ford Mustang, which will easily close in on him here in the next couple of laps. But Bosca's been quite surprised. We saw him up in the front, obviously, from the pit stop, but still 15.6 seconds. That short pit stop, that might be the story of the race, because with less than 20 minutes to go, if he can hold on, he might be set up for a prime podium position.
Indeed he might, and I wouldn't count him out either, because even though Whitverwick is leading this, it is this man who we're on board with, David Bosca, who does have the experience with 6+ years in motorsports and sim racing, and he's competed in the top tier teams, including Williams Esports, MSI, and Simufi, and now Grid and Go. So this man has the experience. He's going to be putting it right under the wheel. So I would say if Whitverwick has a chance to prove it, well, he's already proved with his experience, but this man is even more. So I'm sure a battle between these two is not going to be one we want to miss. as this is going to be on the replay in the pit exit of David Bosga. So this is where the experience will show coming out of the pits, and it's going to be interesting. It comes over the crest, and where is Whitlow? You'll wait and see him for a moment. There he is, incredibly close on the rear end. Has to move to the left-hand side of the track, right side of the screen, and this is wheel-to-wheel, side-by-side once again, opting for a bit of a wider line to give this space. This is racing at its absolute finest, and that is just a clean move by Whitlow for that lead back.
Well, of course, Bosga is also the 2023 Belgium iRacing champion, so he already has a ton of experience behind the wheels, you mentioned, and no surprise here that he's able to hold on to the position. Here's Joop de Vos sitting in 6th place, up 4 from his grid position, trying to hold off Ryan Woodrow. In spite of him being 2 off, that early for lap 1 incident kind of messed with him, flashing the lights, trying to get inside de Vos's head, but Woodrow actually looking pretty good here in this Corvette, working through Maggotts and Becketts, and this race has kind of turned on its head a little bit with the strategy. I kind of like the fact that Bosga came in and did the short pit, and de Vos and Woodrow just trying to get in, stay in that top 10 as Woodrow reeling him in, heading into Stowe. And Stowe, you really got to keep up your speed, but that center weight of this Porsche here, that's really helping out de Vos.
Yeah, I mean, definitely. It allows for more of a bit of a plant on the circuit, I would say. Personally not a Porsche driver myself, but I know from people who do, especially the man just in front, it is real. It shows that it could be a car in the hands, and it can be an absolutely amazing one. Woodrow, though, still on the rear end in his Corvette, continuously trying to get past it. Really is an interesting factor when 2 of these types of cars go side by side. Of course, you've got more experience than myself, Jeremy, in these kind of series, but talk us through it. What do you expect in a difference between a Porsche and a Corvette as they go wheel to wheel, side by side, especially in a 50-minute race like this?
Well, I've been lucky enough to work these series that have these certain regulations to where you can't mess with anything. So they really do very well on trying to, for the parity, basically, as we see Woodrow trying to go just a little bit wide, coming off the Wellington straight through Brooklands now into Luffield. But it's no surprise to see these 2 cars run with each other neck and neck. It doesn't matter what series I'm racing at, whether it's a Trans Am or a GT3 series like this, the parity is just so tight with these series that, you know, yeah, one may be faster in the straights, but the other's going to catch up with you in the corners. But Woodrow, I don't know, the past couple of laps I've seen him run through cops, and he's had a fantastic exit. So I'm not sure if there's something that he's trying there that really makes him nice and tidy, because once he gets through Maggotts, Becketts, and Chapel, he's just all over the back. He's too far away to make anything happen through the Hanger Straight, but he could set something up through the Hamilton Straight as his battle for 6th place really heats up. Igor Koss a little bit further back, but still, let's see if a move is made here. No, Woodrow thinks better of it. The Corvette driver, of course, has high-level finishes all up and down, whether it is the Logitech McLaren G Series or SRO Esports, so he knows how to race, and he's very good at racing here. And, of course, he's also a Nürburgring 24-hour class winner starting in 2024 as he works his way around down the Hamilton Straight. Does he make the move here? I think he's going to set up for Village. Let's stay on board with Woodrow as he closes in. That scrub off of speed may have hurt him a little bit going through into the farm curve, but yeah, too far away to make something happen. That might be his downfall, but he is closing in. Does he see the opening? No. de Vos shuts the front door on him through the loop, and now able to get back on that gas just a little bit better.
Indeed it is. I mean, looking back on the result which we saw when these drivers did a bit of pre-season, these 2 are exactly where they were last time, just 1 position down. So last time it was de Vos over Woodrow, so is it going to happen again, or will it be a bit of redemption trying to make up for that and get another move past? Either way, it is down to the wire, I would say, as we are just under 15 minutes remaining in this one. Also, I think you saw it as well, Jeremy. We have got that sun glare coming over the horizon as you head through the first few corners, so surely that's going to be a factor on Hanger.
Oh, it's going to be a problem on Hanger. It's really going to be a problem on Cops because that is, like I said, that's where we saw Ryan really make that pass through there. Now we go through Maggotts, Becketts, and Chapel. So we'll see if that has anything to do, see if DeVos has to do a heavy defense going into the first sector or not. Woodrow still about a couple car lengths behind DeVos. So it is, you're on board with the Corvette. You got the Porsche up ahead. Then if Woodrow gets a chance, he'll go try and catch up to Koss, but everybody running about the same time. Here's what I love about these GT3 cars. You can run a 1/10 of a second faster than somebody and still not be able to pass them just because you catch them at the wrong place. So that's something to watch out for, as Whitvet just cannot shake off Bozga for the lead. We've seen gaps as high as 5 seconds. Now it's down to the 1/10 of a second. And oh, by the way, there's some lap traffic up ahead as well.
Lap traffic is always going to be a big factor no matter what racing it is. So in these final 10 minutes coming up, it's definitely going to be an interesting one. We'll see how that will affect it. As we head now through Brooklands into Lutfield, and the lap driver is P number 17 of Konrad Kula, but this is a little bit further back. This is Alexander Paulik and, of course, Richardson. Richardson's on the inside, and he is going to go on the inside once again, going to hold the line. The Merc is going to get the advantage, though, on the speed, and he will be able to carry that through. What a move. And that's lovely. But now looking for the inside line is Alexander Paulik, and it is lovely and jubbly. It's now wheel to wheel between the two drivers around the outside. This time towards Woodcut you go, possibly an up and under by the Ferrari. Is it going to be the toe? The toe is always a good benefit to have, especially down this straight down towards Cops Corner. But it seems like as we watch this battle, it is going to be Cadden Richardson who is defending with all his might. He got that lovely move through the loop, and now he's put the defense on and he's put the brakes on Paulik.
Well, it doesn't help that Paulik had about a half car length width up on Cops, and that's never going to help if you're going to try and defend somebody. Also, Caden, he knows how to get around with draft and all that, as he is the defending Radical SR10 Pro Champion in the Midwest Road Racing Series. Gregory Hovson, gotta say, he fell down to 14th, but he and Neo have been neck and neck since they both got out of the pits, working their way around the back part of the circuit. Man, that is absolutely high commitment going through Vale and into the club chicane. There's a spin. Neo with the spin. Hovson shortcuts the course, and Neo able to come around. Not sure if there was contact or whatnot, but Danny Neo slowing, heading down into the Hamilton Straight.
What? And that is really unfortunate for them. Are we hearing?
Well, we're hearing that they both. Yeah, I think they both have a drive-through, so they both have hit that 20 incident point, so they will have to come in within the next 3 laps, about less than 10 minutes left to go. And Hovson, who's tried to make a great climb up the field, and Neo will both have to answer the black flag. We're back to this battle. Actually, let's go to the replay and see what happened here. Alex, I'm going to step back and let you kind of decipher this, because that was interesting to see.
Yeah, that's a turn in too early. Danny Neo goes round, and Gregory Hovson came across, and that is what caused that spin. So turning in a bit too early, maybe not expecting the car to be that slow in that segment of the corner, and that is what happened. That is what sent them both round, and I believe that is what both got them the drive-through. So possibly incident limit rather than track limits being built up too much, and that is going to affect them majorly now in these final minutes. Who's going to be able to pick up those points? We'll watch that timing tower to keep you updated, as Alexander Paulik right now is looking at the rear end of Neg. But this is all across the board. Whitver, though, I'm going to give him his props. He's been leading this for an absolute age, and he's been showing why. He did it in the pre-season, and he's doing it again. But Bozga still within that 1 second, so never say never with 7 minutes and and 45 seconds left on the clock. Anything can happen towards the end of this. Getting past the lap traffic, it seems. That's Cooler, who you see in the background, that white Ferrari. So that is the moves done to get past, and into the pit lane comes Danny Neo to serve that drive-through penalty. That is unfortunate for them, as there is the sun and it is shining over Silverstone to kick off this new season here in the Crown Racing Series, and it is a show altogether. But also these drivers are getting so much experience, you never have too much, and as they come onto the old pit straight out through Woodcut now down towards Cops Corner, you get this beautiful helicopter cam. But Luciano Vitvoet, as we've already talked about him quite a bit, but we'll remind you that it is a bit of a sad story that he did lose his father. So the fact that he's able to keep on doing sim racing in this style and win so much, I'm sure that everybody will be happy about that.
But I wouldn't get out David Bozga out yet. He's been within a second the whole time. Now, if you remember that first stint, Whitvet opened up that 3-second gap over Pedersen, and really, that's going to be interesting to watch as we see Ryan Woodrow knocking at the door of DeVos once again through Maggotts into Becketts right now as they work through. And tell you what, DeVos, he's just so good through these corners, but Woodrow able to keep him honest in his Corvette down into the hangar straight. Let's see who gets on the brakes just a little bit later, and it looks like it's going to be Woodrow. He's closed up that gap once again, able to get on the loud pedal just a little bit quicker. But both of these drivers has been going tooth and nail since the pit stop. So with about more than 5 minutes left to go, this race is going to go down to the wire with these two drivers. Actually, the closest battle of the race, and it is for 6th place down the Hamilton straight. Once again, it's still Joop de Vos and Ryan Woodrow. Of course, Joop de Vos really, here's what's interesting, is Hobson comes in for his drive-through penalty, but Joop de Vos actually was part of a pro cycling team as well, so that kind of makes me smile a little bit. As Whitvet, once again, you see him out near the front, and Bozga doing all he can to stay within that slipstream. But as we said, Whitvet too good, too fast.
Yeah, off of 2 wheels and onto 4, but either way, the skill hasn't disappeared. In fact, it seems like it's grown for Joop de Vos. But you were talking about this one, Bozga is still on the back of this. Witverwit is the Dutchman who is currently leading this. Bozga P number 2, Pedersen P number 3, Erdelysic P number 4 with Kos P5, De Vos P number 6 with Woodrow P number 7, P number 8 for Kosfor, followed by Bukana P9, and Richardson rounds out your top 10. Neg, Paulik, Domark, Hobson, Neo and Alberti in P number 16, and then of course you've got Cooler, who is unfortunately 2 laps down due to damage earlier on in this race. But it's great to see that they have kept going. But there is Joop de Vos, like I said, off 2 wheels, onto 4, and he is doing this defending like he's been doing it his entire life. Honestly, I would not say I'm surprised, as of course he is shaped by family legacy, and he is also mentored by his racing father.
Of course, it also reminds you of another famous cyclist from your neck of the woods who also went to 4 wheels, Sir Chris Hoy. So no surprise here that running in a velo or a velodrome really translates into, well, what happened to Woodrow? Woodrow would possibly slow down penalty for the American, as now that battle has been lost for 6th place as Woodrow falls 1.1 seconds. Let's take a look at the lap time, 59.9. Yeah, so slow down penalty for Woodrow costs him that battle for possession. Let's see if he can wrangle himself up. You've got Kosfor, Pagnini, and Richardson battle also there. So it's Ferrari, Porsche, and Mercedes sitting there, line of Stern heading into Abbey, and Pagnini's had a quiet race so far, sitting there in 9th. In spite, you want to win, but at the same time, you kind of want to make a statement, and I think that Pagnini's really made a statement, being one of the 2 Porsches, almost going for a dive there on the Scotsman into the loop, as now everybody working their way down into Wellington Straight. But Alex, I've got to say, not a bad showing out of the Italian.
Yeah, not bad at all. I mean, if we look at him, he's 5 positions up since his race start. So either way, he's had a good race nonetheless. It's always a good race when you're gaining positions. And he's currently inside that top 10 with the Merc all over the rear end of his Porsche, but he's putting the defence on like there's no tomorrow. You see the gap from the leader there as you look over the front bumper as you go on board with Curtin Richardson, who is now going to go on the inside. I'm going to get a pass on Pagini, and that is a lovely one at the end of the day. That is into Copse down the inside. That is how you do an overtake there. But we've seen it also. I think that's one of the few times we've actually seen an inside overtake there, because majority of drivers have opted for the outside line there tonight.
They really have, and that was a great move by Richardson, but Pagnini tried to go for the defense going into Maggotts. Not going to happen, as now Pagnini has Neg and Pollock all on his back door, and something I have not mentioned all race long. I've been watching it, but I love how well that Castrol paint scheme on Pollock's goes so well on the Ferrari. Of course, as you remember, that was on the Toyota back in the 90s. As Cosford has a defensive line, contact between Richardson and Pagnini going into there. Wonder if Pagnini just didn't realize how quick that slowdown was, as now you see Neg try to go around the inside. He's going to. It's going to be 1-2 positions. So could there be some sort of damage or spin? As Neg goes for a spin, was it contact with Pollock? It's all come undone here in the past couple of corners, as now Neg has to shortcut the course to come back on, but Pollock now has a problem himself. A little bit too slow going through Village and into the loop, as he wiggles, I should say, too fast. Here comes a battle down the Wellington Straight, as Pollock has to hold off Pagnini once again. I'll tell you what, it went from bad to worse to maybe I'll get it done here, as Pagnini still has a chance to go up through the field, and I'm not sure if this is the last lap or not, but we are in the closing stages of this race. It's amazing how fast this race has gone, as Richardson has gone up around Neg so far for position, but we are watching Pollock and Pagnini, and Neg goes off course once again, so Neg has some problems. A Romanian working his way around the circuit through left field and Woodcott right now, as we take a look and see where our leaders are in comparison, as they are, it's going to be a race to the finish. I don't know if they'll make it to the end of the race, and yeah, they will. So this will be the last lap as they come across the line now. Wow, only about 6 seconds later, and they would have made it, but it's going to be smooth sailing for Whitvet so far, unless he drops a wheel off. He's already gained a second on second place David Bozka, and that battle for third between Pedersen and Erdely still looking pretty good. It's been an interesting battle, to say the least, not necessarily up front, but right here. It's been centered around Pollock as he closes in once again on Cosford. Pagnini trying to see if he can capitalize on a little bit of a mistake that he did, but Neg is going into the pits. It's as he got a copped a penalty as well for incident points. So Neg will have to end this race with a pass-through, as you see Danny Neo. Talk about somebody who it could have been, should have been for him, as Joop de Vos once again has to hold off Ryan Woodrow. Let's see if Woodrow makes a move into Brooklands. Too far away to make anything happen. De Vos, he's looking like a boss so far, trying to hold off the American as they work their way down onto Luffield and into Woodcott. Once again, Whitvet so far away that we are on the final lap of this race. You're looking at the back of DeVos in his Porsche. You see the closing in that Woodrow does, and he still can't make anything happen, but a little bit of a wiggle heading into Copse makes life just a little bit difficult for the American as they set up for Maggotts and Becketts for the final time. But Whitvet, talk about a fantastic race. He led every lap at the one that he was into the pits, works his way through into Vale, now through Club, and it's smooth sailing for the Dutch driver. He dominated the pre-race, and now he's going to dominate race number 1 and put his name into the history books and be the first winner of the Crown Racing Series. Second goes to David Bozka, and third will go to Nikolai Pedersen.
Also going to have rest of the field. Fastest lap will go to P number 3 of Balzer Zergelai. But now this is Joop de Vos, and of course behind Ryan Woodrow. Could anything happen in these final few corners? Doesn't seem like it after that touch of a sausage curb on the inside of Club. It's de Vos, P number 6, with P7 going to Woodrow. There's Cosford, but Paulick's going to go for the move down in towards the braking zone. Paulick's going to get this move on the final lap, and he is going to be there for him. So Cosford losing out that position to the German. Is he out of fuel? Because he is majorly slowing down. He is come unravelled at the end for Cosford. He's going to have to finish P number 7, Paulick P8, Pagini P9, Richardson P number 10, Denmark comes on P12, and then you've got the rest of the grid to come through. That is not the end that Cosford would have wanted as Danny Neal comes to the line now. Then we got Neg and Alberti yet to come to the line.
I think what saved Cosford there was the fact that the finish line is right there coming off of Club and onto the Hamilton straight, or else he would have lost 11th place as well. But Alexa, I've got to say this. I went into this race knowing that it was going to be an interesting race. Nonetheless, this was fantastic throughout the field.
Oh, tell me about it. I mean, I think we saw at the start though it started to get away, but Bosger, after those pit stops, it really shaked it up. He got up in a P number 2 there, one position up since his race start. Bowles, Erdely and Lucanio Witverwit, the only drivers actually not to change positions throughout this race. David Bosger and Nikolai N. Pedersen would actually switch positions, so one up, one down at the end of that. And like I said, Balzer Ergelai picked up the fastest lap of this race of those extra 3 points. 1 minute 57, 5.87 goes to them at the end of it. As you see, Igor Kos currently on the side of the circuit. That Ford Mustang always looks good, but I was especially entertained with that midfield tonight because, my God, if you want to see absolutely amazing side-by-side racing, they were especially interesting to watch, especially Joop de Vos and Ryan Woodrow.
Let's take a look at the race results before we send it off to the studio. It's Luciano Whitvet, your winner, ahead of David Bosga and Nikolai Pedersen. Bosga, I think, had the drive of the race, especially with the pit strategy. Balzas Erdely is in 4th, also your fastest lap. So he earns an extra 3 points. Igor Kos, Joop de Vos, Sitzel will be in 6th. 7th, Ryan Woodrow, the American Caden Richardson, finishes off in 8th place. Cody Cosford and Kyle Domark round out your top 10. You take a look at 11th on Becketts. Cody Cosford, it's well, we'll get the rest of the field here shortly, but really, there we go. It's Gregory Hofson, Mihai Neg, and Alexander Pollock, 13th. 14th, Andrea Pagnini in the Porsche. Federico Alberti and Danny Neo round out your lead lap racers. And what could have been for Conrad Kula with a little bit of contact ended up in last on the field, but able to finish 2 laps down. Alexa, let's get your final thoughts on this race.
Domination from Lucanio Witverwit. No, I am going to say that. Absolutely amazing drive by him tonight. Amazing midfield fights like we saw. And, of course, you had those unfortunate drive-throughs for a few of those drivers. Of course, the unravelling towards the end as well for Danny Neo. They're going to want to go again. They're going to want to go again next time around. But for a first race of the season, especially at Silverstone, I would say it's the best it could have been.
It really has. By the way, some quick housekeeping. Cody Cosford going into the chat and saying, yep, he ran out of fuel, so good call there. Got to thank Sam Fitzpatrick and Lewis Ward for making it sound oh so good back in Mission Control. Alexa, as always, thanks for joining us. My name is Jeremy Scott. If you thought that Silverstone was interesting, we've got Fuji up next, and ground racing is really showing its might here. So for everybody here from Silverstone, thanks for joining us. We'll send it back up to Shannon and Jamie in the studio.
Thank you, Jeremy and Alexa. Welcome back to the studio, and what a race we had. Shannon, what did you think?
I thought that was extremely exciting to watch, especially like being on the side here. I was just taking mad notes.
Yeah, but it had to be done. So many incidents.
Yeah.
I have been told to say that we do have an independent contracted stewards for the entire season. So with all those incidents taking place throughout the race, they will be referred to the stewards throughout. So rest assured that will be handled properly, professionally, and as always within the sport. From the first sort of, even the first turn really, but Hoverson, Neo, Woodrow, that first incident, that was huge. It really did sort of mean that certainly Hoverson and Neo end up having their own battle way towards the end of the back of the grid. A huge win for Luciano Wittwert going into the first race. He dominated throughout. I mean, apart from when he was in the pits, he was in the lead the entire time. Do you think he might be ironed on as a good favourite for the season?
Oh, he's definitely my favorite, for sure.
Yeah, I think that's a commanding performance from him personally. He did have a little bit of trouble with David Bosger going into the final stages, but that overtake, I think it was lap 20. Lap 20. That overtake was huge, and it did sort of prove that he can get the overtakes done and open up and maintain a gap as well. He had 3-second gaps before the pit stop, and then he maintained a 0.8 to 1 second gap after the pit stops when he got past David Bosger. But speaking of David Bosger, the first lap incident with Pedersen, Erdelay and Bosger in a three-way, and for Erdelay to take up 2 spaces and for Pedersen to go down 3. That was huge at that point in the race to really sort of set up the top 5, which didn't really change. We had Wittwert, Bosger, Pedersen, Erdelay, and we didn't really mention him much, but Igor Koz was there as well.
I didn't really see much movement with Igor Koz.
No, I think he had a quiet race.
Yeah, he started at 5, around 5.6, and he ended up at 5.6 as well.
Well, I mean, if you put the 6 the other way up, that's where he started. But yeah. We are just about to find out who our first interview is going to be with. Oh, wow. We will be going to our race winner. Exciting times. Let's get a check with our race producer. When amazing. We are going to go live to Luciano Wittwert, and we're going to bring our race winner into the studio and coming over. Luciano, are you there?
Yeah, good evening, guys.
Hey, Luciano, how are you?
I'm good. I can breathe again, so it was an eventful race, but it came together in the end, so I'm happy.
You look incredibly calm for someone who's just done 50 minutes of racing. How did you find the race, and how do you feel going into this season?
I mean, the race was pretty controlled from the start. Like, when I got off and I saw the gap, starting to grow behind me, I was contemplating on the strategy. I'm like, should I fuel save or should I just keep pushing? And I decided to keep pushing. So when I came in into pit and I saw David kept going for another lap, I knew it's going to be tricky at the when he gets out of the pit. And yeah, we did have a little fight going on, but once I got in front, I was lucky enough to manage the gap and keep pulling away. So I'm happy.
Well, it has to be said that your gap management was fantastic throughout. I mean, you opened up a 3-second gap before your pit stop, and then once you got past David, you were able to manage that gap again. Was that always the plan in terms of going full out, or did you have to find a balance to your strategy?
No, I didn't really have a plan. It was just kind of seeing how it would go. And like I said, when I came into the pit and I saw he was going to do an extra lap, I was kind of worried. I'm like, okay, it's going to be tight. But I know that outlap is quite heavy on the tire, so once I got in front, I'm like, okay, just keep pushing as hard as I can to get a little bit of a gap. And then the next 2-3 laps were crucial for me to see if he was going to catch up or going to stick behind. And once I saw that the gaps were kind of similar every lap, then I'm like, okay, I can slowly start pulling away. So not really a plan beforehand, but it all worked out.
Can I ask you a question?
Mm-hmm.
About because you have a very inspiring story with like beginning your racing story in your dad's garage, Seat Cup team mechanic. What does your childhood look like with the influence from your father, would you say?
I've always been around cars, basically. Like he had his own shop and I was always there, or going to the tracks with him or whatever. And I had a brief karting stint myself, but the funds weren't really there, so I couldn't keep doing that. And I think my passion for racing / cars really developed at like age 15, 16 when I was looking at my own first car, and then, you know, he got sick. So in 2020, I decided to just try sim racing to see if it would be something. And yeah, we got into that together basically, and he coached me on what to do and racing strategies, social aspect of racing, basically everything that involves racing, and in this case sim racing. So yeah, it was kind of tough, you know, at the end of 2021, but like I said, I made the decision to keep going, keep pushing, and yeah, that's fueled me every day to just get the best results in every race.
Wow, what a story.
So Luciano, it's quite a dominant start for you for the CRS campaign. How are you feeling going into this season?
I feel pretty good. I didn't expect to win. Of course, I was aiming for the win, but the conditions in quali were really tricky. So when I was on pole, but like, I think it was like 100 for 2, I knew, okay, it's going to be a big fight. But like I said, once I saw that the gaps were opening up and I could manage the pace here and there, I was quite happy, and I knew, okay, if I can keep doing this race, then, you know, Fuji might go well, the other race might go well. I will keep practicing like I've been doing now, and hopefully bring home the results.
Well, like I say, a dominant showing from yourself, and we're very excited to see what you bring come Fuji as well. So, Luciano, thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you guys as well.
Cheers. Take care.
Yeah,
okay, guys, that was Luciano Wittvogt, your race winner, and what a race win it was. A dominant performance throughout. We are going to find out who else we have got coming up in just a second from our producer, Sam. But in the meantime, let's just talk about some of the incidents that happened throughout the race. I'm just sort of garroting myself with my cable here. Shannon, we had our three-way in lap 1 with Pedersen, Erdely and Bosga. Do you think that set up the top 5, and did that sort of dictate how that was going to happen in terms of evolving race strategy?
Well, I think it was very early on, you know, like when this happened, it was in the first 8 minutes, if I'm not wrong. And I think what it did was that it actually set kind of like a precedent to the kind of atmosphere of what was happening in the race. And then within that, it like drove onwards onto what is now the race results, with Luciano winning, coming up first, and Bosga coming up second, Pedersen in third.
Yeah, I think strategy came into it quite a lot. Caden Richardson's early stop was certainly something that was a bit of a curveball for me, but it did help him a lot because that meant that he made up 3 positions overall. Some big movers across the board, with Igor Kos making up 4 places, Joop de Vos making up 4 places. The big mover was Andrea Pagnini, who made up 5 places, although I'm sure the stewards will have something to say about his rear end with Richardson towards the end of the race. Richardson did have a fantastic overtake on Pagnini on lap 24, and then there was a rear ending on lap 25, so I'm sure the independent stewards will have something to say. So we are going to go now to our interview with Oscar. Are we ready to go?
Hello.
Sorry, David. Sorry, my mic just cut out there. I was like, who's Oscar? So we're going to go to David Bosga now. I'm excited about this. He came second today. So we are going to go live. David Bosga, are you there?
Yes. Hello, everyone. How are you?
Hello, how are you?
Very well, David.
Good.
So, David, you finished second today and had a very fantastic race. Talk us through it. How do you feel it went?
I mean, it went good. I thought the Mustang had more power than I did, so like I was fighting a bit with Nikolai in the practice, I think, and I saw he had massive power, so I knew if I couldn't overtake him at the start, it was going to be hard later on. So yeah, I just pushed a lot at the beginning to try and overtake him. Was not possible. So at the end, I just decided to feel safe a lot behind him. The objective was to feel safe behind Luciano, but yeah, well, at the end was okay. Then I got a slowdown also, which was not really good because yeah, I lost like 2 seconds or so. That was crucial for maybe the race win with all the fuel that I saved behind Nikolai. So yeah, it was a great race. I enjoyed it a lot.
Did that play into your strategy somewhat? Were you looking to balance fuel over a hard push for the race? Was that your overall strategy?
Well, definitely. I had a guy behind who was not trying to overtake me, and I had a guy in front pushing a lot. So I knew I was just gonna stay there, feel safe a lot. I was trying to really make it onto 2 extra laps, I nearly made it, but the slowdown just compromised me a lot. So yeah, I had to push a little bit more at the end to get closer
How do you
to them.
feel about the slowdown?
I feel bad, but well, it is what it is. It's the same for everyone. So yeah.
Yeah.
So I heard that you actually taught yourself sim racing. Is that true?
Yes, me alone. Nobody helped me until I joined Grid and Go, which was like a year ago. When then all my teammates really helped me. I was alone every time, learning setups alone most of the time. Yeah.
And what's Grid and Go?
Grid and Go is a esports team, but actually it's a setup shop also. So yeah, we have guides, we have really good setups, and yeah, people can come buy them and race quicker.
So your battle with Luciano on lap 15, talk us through it. How do you feel that went?
Well, I did not expect at all to come ahead of him. I actually underfueled a liter to try and be as close as I could to him, because I knew if I was ahead of Nikolai, I would be able to, like, he would drag me because he was not fuel saving, so his draft would drag me. So actually it was not my intention to fight him. Then I saw I was ahead and I was like, maybe let me try to defend a little bit, but then I saw my delta on the fuel and I was like, yeah, I need to just stay calm, stay behind. I have to fuel save still a liter when my average was already with a lot of fuel saving, so I had to underdrive even more. So yeah, I was definitely not trying to overtake him.
And how do you feel that will set you up for Fuji? Are you going to take the same strategy into there?
Well, I hope in Fuji the Ferrari is a little bit better on power than the Mustang, which would already make things easier in quali and also in the race. So no, I will approach it race by race, depending on where I am. If I find myself again in the same situation, yes, I will definitely use the same strategy because it definitely works very well. And if I'm ahead, then I'll try to push a little bit more.
And how are you feeling about the balance between the Fords and the Ferraris this season? Who do you think has the edge?
I think in terms of pace, they are not balanced, but it's true that the Ferrari has less fuel consumption, and also the fuel tank of the Mustang is bigger. So when you refuel the Mustang, you will take more time to refuel, which is something that I took into consideration to not attack anymore Nikolai and to try and catch Luciano. So yeah, that was important. So I think pace-wise, they are not matched. I think the Mustang is quite a lot quicker. I actually did some laps in Silverstone with the Mustang for other reasons and in the same conditions with the fixed setup, and the Mustang for me was 3/10 quicker. But yeah, at the end, the Ferrari in the fuel was also really quick. If I make the average over the laps over how much I saved, definitely was worth it to take the Ferrari today. Yeah.
Amazing. David, congratulations on your second place and good luck with the rest of the season.
Thank you very much. See you guys.
See you.
Cheers, David. Bye-bye.
Cheers.
That was David Bosga, and that was our second place runner. He seemed quite calm, quite relaxed.
Yeah, he did. Yeah, and now we have Nikolai on the screen. Hi, Nikolai. How are you?
Hi, I'm good. How about you?
Yes, we're doing great. We're back in the studio. It was such an amazing race to watch. Yeah, how did you find the race?
Well, it was a bit tricky for me because at the start I got a bit too many off tracks. So at the end, like the last 8 to 10 laps, I had only 2 off tracks to use. So I was driving a bit concernedly not to do anything stupid.
Well, Nikolai, third place is a great start to the season. How did you feel with your battle at the front, and especially against Belaz and Igor and David? How did you find that?
It was some good fun. I like some hard racing that we did. Like, it's spare racing, but it's hard, and that's the racing that I like to do. So I thought it was quite fun to do and quite fair also.
And how are you finding the battles between the Ferraris and the Fords at the front of the grid at the moment?
Yeah, as David said, that I think the Ford is better on pace, but yeah, the fuel consumption is just so bad that we know that in the pit stop there will be a second or two faster, and then sometimes we can catch it again, but then sometimes we can't.
And the three-way battle at the third turn on lap 1 with yourself and Pedersen, with Bosga and Erdalay. How did you find that? I mean, it must have been hard to see both of them go through on you.
Yeah, but I knew that I had some good pace from the qualifying, so I knew I could get them back again if I just needed to do it right away, not wait too long, because then I thought David would get away from me.
Well, you kept him in touching distance, and a third place finish, a podium finish for you. Congratulations.
Congratulations.
And thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
That was your third place finisher, Nikolai Pedersen there. And again, he pulled it back, considering he lost 2 places on lap 1. It's huge for him.
Very impressive.
Yeah, I thoroughly enjoyed their battle at the front, especially as I genuinely thought that Balaz was actually going to come through.
Yeah.
He looked very strong and posted some very fast laps. So just check in with Sam. Do we have more interviews lined up, Sam? No more interviews lined up. Just our podium wrap. So we will be wrapping up. This has been CRS. This has been your first round at Silverstone. Guys, thank you for being with us. Thank you for watching the race. And I've been Jamie Chambers.
And I'm Shannon Yuan. Thank you so much for having us.